So the internet spoke with the hashtag release the Snyder Cut, and the studio eventually listened. So now we get Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's the version he wanted to tell and show, and I got to see it early thanks to Warner Brothers. So was it worth all the hubbub? Determined to ensure Superman's ultimate sacrifice was not in vain, Bruce Wayne aligns forces with Diana Prince with plans to recruit a team of metahumans to protect the world from an approaching threat of catastrophic proportions. Okay, so I'm not really going to compare this version to the previous version that was started by Snyder and then finished by Joss Whedon. I'm just going to focus on this version. Plus, honestly, I don't really remember the other version, other than the fact that when I watched it, I kind of remember it being just all over the place and not all that awesome. So I did go into this with my expectations in check. I mean, I'm hoping for a good story that would hold my attention for the reported 4-hour and 2-minute runtime. We get an introduction and backstory to not only our cast of future Justice League members, but also we get a decently developed villain. We understand what he's trying to accomplish and the means by which he's going about it. Now, just like with the MCU, I'm not a follower of the comic books for DC. I mean, I did watch Super Friends back in the day, so that, along with any movies that have come out, are really the only basis for my knowledge. And that being said, it was important for me to get an introduction and backstory on some of the characters. There's Barry Allen, or the Flash. I knew he could run at amazing speed, but that was about it. Ezra Miller is wonderful as Alan. I mean, he's funny, sarcastic, and he also has this sense of superhero awe that I found really endearing. I mean, it's similar to how Tom Holland played Peter Parker in Captain America: Civil War. You have this young man who has heroes, and when he's able to meet them, he's a bit awestruck. And Miller plays Alan really well, and all of that feeling, it just comes across. We also have Victor Stone as Cyborg. He's played by Ray Fisher, and I think he's the standout of this story. I mean, there is a really good amount of development on the character, and probably the most out of any of the players. And because of his skills and his background, he's really important to the story. And I read that Snyder had said that he wanted Cyborg to be the heart of the story, and I think it really shows. It was also good to see such a conflicted character. We see a young man who is hurting and angry, who is working through his grief, but it's not a quick transition. We see the toll that it takes on him and how the character struggles to become the hero he's meant to be. It's interesting to watch this now because with it originally slated to release in, 2017, and that was before Aquaman had come out. So we're seeing the introduction of Aquaman in this movie, even though now we've had a full movie with him. And I don't consider this a negative of the film in any way, it's just more of something curious to me. One of the villains in this is a character called Steppenwolf. He's massive, and he looks at times a bit like he's a hammerhead shark. And I loved his metallic suit of armor because it's able to be manipulated, and it has these spikes that poke out from it, and it appears to be pretty well crafted in terms of protection. And while I didn't know much about him as the movie begins, we get a decent amount of backstory on the character as he interacts with his peers. I also really like that he's not the only baddie in this. There's someone even more powerful and worse than he is. And it made quite the stir on social media when images of Darkseid were released. I didn't know anything about that dude at all, but the story does a good job of giving us some necessary detail on it. Gal Gadot, Ben Affleck, and Henry Cavill are good in reprising their roles of Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman respectively. I also really like that in this, when Wonder Woman does her thing, for the most part, we get that guitar riff that is kind of her theme. I was really missing that guitar part of it from Wonder Woman 1984. Now, this is an epic telling of a story. We get some really great battle scenes, but also there's a lot that is covered story-wise in each place the movie takes us. We travel to Themyscira and Atlantis, as well as Gotham, Metropolis, Central City, Iceland, and various other places around the globe. Sometimes there are battles, other times it's conversations and character building as Bruce Wayne attempts to build these heroes together. And the landscapes and the worlds that they go to, they look great. I really enjoyed the score of this too. I felt my heartbeat increasing as some climactic scenes played out because the music was swelling with the action, and then it really enhances what I was watching. This is told in 6 parts plus an epilogue, and one of the obvious things that could be a detractor for this movie is its runtime. Now, I'm not afraid of a long movie. The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King Extended Edition, which really is the only version you should ever watch, I mean, come on, it's 21 minutes longer than Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I watch that one fairly often. So when a story is good and compelling, the runtime doesn't really come into play for me. And I was highly engaged in this, but there were some parts that felt either drawn out or even unnecessary. And mostly the pace was efficient, but a few times it felt a little slower than it maybe should have been. When we first see Wonder Woman, there's a scene with her taking on some bad guys, and this allows the story to show off her prowess, her abilities, her speed, and her strength. Now, had this been the first introduction to the character, then I think it's necessary for us to see what she can do and be wowed by her. But she's been in Dawn of Justice and then her own movie, so to have that scene wasn't really necessary to build the story, especially because it didn't lead anywhere past that scene's conclusion. There are also some parts with Jeremy Irons, and I like him, but they just kind of had him tinkering about. Sometimes it's trying for a bit of levity, which works to varying degrees. Now, I do think most of the special effects in this are really well executed. Obviously, a ton of it is going to be CGI, but I didn't notice it. We have all these parademons flying about, and the Flash running super quick. I mean, Aquaman when he's fighting underwater, and of course there's Cyborg, who's mainly machine. I mean, if you have a character like that, he better look good, otherwise it's going to be ruined every time that he's on the screen. And the battle scenes are pretty epic also. They're grand scale with a ton of destruction, but there's also some great hand-to-hand combat as well. I felt a bunch of tension through most of the fights, not so much because I thought a character would die, I mean, especially in the fights that were happening in the first half of the movie, but I was caught up in the story and invested in what was happening. But there were also some scenes that did look like they came out of a video game, which when they came on, I was taken out of the movie just a bit. But luckily that was not the majority of how the effects looked. I mean, almost the entire time, they were convincing. Okay, so chances are you've heard that there is an appearance by Jared Leto's Joker in this cut. It's an interesting insertion into the story, which makes me wonder if there will ever be a future for this version of the Justice League. There was something that really made me chuckle in this too. At one point, some of our heroes are battling a villain, and it's in this tower type of structure. So Flash can run super quick, Cyborg can fly, Wonder Woman can just jump crazy high in the air, but what do? They walk up the flight of stairs. Is that because Batman is just a normal human being? I mean, he has his bat belt of many things, right? Can't he just grappling hook himself up? The scene just struck me as funny when I saw them climbing all of these stairs. You know, originally this came out in 2017, and even if Snyder had completed it, I'm not sure this complete vision would have made it to the screen. I think time and the fans' voice played a massive part in getting this cut released. I mean, especially the voice. I'm kind of thankful for that too. Sometimes a redo of a story and vision is what's needed to really tell something well. Overall, I was really invested in this story. I think that this new version, even though it's long, tells a really compelling tale and gives us an engaging villain. This baddie also has an intriguing quest which creates urgency on the part of our heroes. The character development is executed well, and that's what really hooked me into everything that was going on. And while we do have a large collection of heroes, I really like seeing Cyborg become the prominent one, especially since I probably knew the least about him. So if you are somebody who's been waiting for this pretty much since the beginning, I know you're going to see this regardless of what anyone says. If though you're either on the fence about seeing this or even unfamiliar with the story, this is an entertaining ride that has some good dark moments to it, but also a decent level of emotionality. This hits HBO Max on March 18th. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, and a lot of violence. I give Zack Snyder's Justice League 4.5 out of 5 couches. So have you been looking forward to seeing this? Do you have a favorite DC character? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for catching with me. And I don't know if you heard all of the wind chimes that are going out because it's raining and windy outside the room that I record in. And so, there you go. It's just a little musical background for you. Enjoy.